Hi everybody, it's Annette from The Art of Intuition. And today we are going to talk about not shooting the messenger. We're going to talk about a topic that came up on a call I was on. And the lady that brought it up actually has a YouTube channel, so I wanted to mention her. Her name is Marissa O'Neill, and you'll find her channel. I assume if you just type that in, you could find it. But it was a topic about it's all just information. And I really love the way that was framed. I'm like, everything we hear is just information, and we need to take it as that and not take it as a personal attack, not take it as someone is trying to just story something we have, take something from us. So we personalize the information. And if we can draw back and just say, hey, it's information, that's all this is. When someone talks to you, it's just information. If we have an emotional reaction to it, if we have a story attached to it, if we have preconceived notions about it, we have twisted it. And that's on us. I see a lot of people who will do videos and say, it's yours, that's theirs, that's not mine, right? And I'll say, well, if you have a reaction, it's yours. You can't say it's not yours unless you can 100% say you have no reaction to it. If you take it as information and you're not taking it as anything else, it triggers nothing else, but it's just information. It's like reading a sign on the road. It's like, okay, that's just information. It tells you where people are coming from. It tells you what aspect of them is talking to you. It tells you where they live from. It tells you their priorities. It tells you what's important to them. It tells you who's important to them. It goes back and it leans back into the priorities. It tells you where they come from. And when we say things, it says where we come from. What earth do you live from? Old earth, new earth, higher aligned timelines, human timelines. Information is just information. And if you're not taking it as information, and we're taking it with emotional charge to it, we get all wrapped up in it, we have to look at that. Because it doesn't matter even who's speaking. It's still just information. If it's your parents saying it, if it's, your best friend saying it, if it's your husband saying it or wife saying it, it's just information. How we're taking it is the more important thing than what they're saying. I'll always say, don't worry about what somebody says. Worry more about, not even really worry about it, but don't worry what somebody says. Be concerned about what they do, because that tells you more about where people come from. Speaking is just information, but even how people act, it's just information. People can say one thing and do something else. It's still just information. It's not to take something and for us to create the story around it. So when we're not taking something as information and we're taking it as a personal attack, we're taking it about, like all of a sudden if our roles are shifting, and even when someone else takes it as not just information, and our human consciousness can take nothing as just information. Only your light body, your soul bodies, your soul aspects can take it as information. It's like you're getting data in a computer. It's your energetic field takes in all the information, and then our human consciousness puts all the framing around it, right? Your soul aspects don't put all that framing around it, because it's just something to note, right? It's like a book we're reading. It's something to note in here. Something to note what this person's go-to programming is. It's to note where our go-to programming is. It's when we get a charge from it. It's when we get all of a sudden we feel a certain way about it. We're like, oh, wait a minute. Now I feel that this is a personal thing. And it can be a little thing. It can be like trying to, get contractors to come and do something on your home, and something about the price quote you don't like, and all of a sudden you get this whole story around that. And it's just information. And when I could take everything back, and it's almost a fun game to play. Even if you just want to try it for one day. In the beginning, it's baby steps. And a lot of our awakening and the beginning of ascension, even in the middle of ascension, when things can get really, really rough, it's important to remember it's just baby steps for a while. We can't do the quantum leaps until we learn how to walk in the new realities, right? We can't jump until we learn how etherical it can be in a sense, and how we pay more attention to certain things and other things. We disconnect from the human world. If we're not willing to disconnect from the human world, then we're not really willing to leave it behind. We still want to kind of keep it there. We don't want to let it go. But if you just take one day and say, okay, everything I hear is just information, and any other charge I get from it, I'm gonna note that, because that is also information, that something is going on with me around it. If I get upset when someone tells me something, okay, that's on me. What's going on with me? They just imparted information, and it might be information that, hey, I don't respect this relationship, you're not a priority, and that's the information that's being, that's what's being said. And even if that's not what's being said, that's what their actions are doing, right? I pay much more attention to how somebody acts than what somebody says. That's why we can get the big disconnect into what somebody says and what they do. And we're so surprised, even though we kind of knew, because what they're saying and what they're doing are two separate things, or the tone of which they're saying it does not match what they're saying. That's when we start getting the head tilts, and we start tilting our head when we talk to people, because we're picking up on a different frequency than what their words are saying. So it starts to bring up all these red flags, right? What's going on? Why is this seem out of sorts? Why does it seem like this is a little odd to me? If you can take a day and just say, okay, everything I hear is information, everything I see is just information. And any emotional charge, I'm gonna take note of it, because I got to go back to that. Why is this emotionally charging? What is it? What does it get to me? Why is it getting to me? Why do I have a personal attachment to the person, to the situation, that when they say it, it's now going to mess with my world if they decide to leave the reality, if they try to shift the reality. I'm ingrained to it. I'm attached to it. I have a big cord of attachment to it. It's a great exercise to do, to really step back from it and just take everything as information and really look at what's being said without the emotional charge. Even if you feel it, note you have it, because we don't want to ignore that. Ascension is not ignoring any emotional things we have going on, ignoring our programming, and keep trying to live an ascended life but not dealing with ourselves, because you can't do that. You have to do the deep inner work. You have to connect in. You have to purge these programmings, purge these relationships we have. And you have to clean them up in a sense. We have to bring them to a higher state. And if we can't do that, then we have to understand that it's a possibility these people won't be in our lives, because we can't come to a common consciousness in a sense on how we want to live. So when you're doing an exercise like this, look at what's easy to take as information. If you go into a grocery store and you're looking for a product and someone says, well, we don't carry it. Okay. That's just information. You don't have a personal attachment to it. You might be annoyed. And then you're like, okay, why am I annoyed? I'm annoyed because now I got to go to a different place. Or maybe I didn't plan this out ahead, and now I got to take more time to go somewhere else. Maybe I'm annoyed because it said on the website you had it and you don't have it. So we can see some of the things that can come up when we get in, and that's a very, mundane situation in a sense. But sometimes it's easier to pick apart the mundane ones instead, and before you try to get into the really icky, complicated ones, with blood family, with, relationships, and do it with people you don't have relationships with, and see how we get charged in these exchanges. Like, oh, okay, wait a minute. That is just information. Why am I taking it any other way? Why am I attaching all this stuff to it? Why am I bringing my stuff to it? I'm taking what they're saying and making all these assumptions, making it personal, which it's not. And now I've kind of changed the whole context of what's going on. And there might be 100 things going on beneath it, and I'll guarantee there are. But, 99% of that's still going to be us. That doesn't mean we have to stay in the relationship. Just because we always will come back to, this is my issue, really not their issue, it doesn't mean we stay somewhere where we're being disrespected. That's our issue if we allow that to continue. If we allow ourselves to stay in a situation where we're getting disrespected, that's our issue. But the information is we're getting disrespected. Let's work through that. Let's shift that reality or close out that reality. It doesn't mean we stay. It means we look at it and say, okay, what's going on with me? Why am I allowing this to occur? It's still, at the end of the day, just information. And if we can just get back to that simple thing, you really can start to segregate out the core things going on with us as to what we're attaching to it. Oh, I couldn't find what I was looking for today. Nothing ever works out for me, and then we go down that rabbit hole about why do I feel that way? Why is that story I'm telling myself? What's going on? How is that tying into all these other things? It's so important to be able to peel back the onion on how we live and where we live from, because we cannot live ascended lives when we're still living in a human consciousness of a victim. We're still trying to assign roles to everybody. That person's the victim, that person is the hero. That's why everyone loves the anti-hero, right? There was a time when the villains were villains and the good guys were the good guys, and you had the black hats on the villains and the white hats on the good guys, and that's how it worked, right? That was how we just pieced it out. And we still try to assign those very generic roles to people. But everyone technically is the shade of gray. There is no one. I will tell you now, when we start out in our human consciousness, we're probably more, more of the baddies in a sense, if we want to just to segregate it off for a minute, because we're all about ourselves. There's nothing heroic in a human consciousness. It's not programmed to be heroic. It's programmed for self-preservation, and it's not programmed for anything else. So as we continue to go through our ascension process, a lot of the tips and tricks we pick up along the way, just to help us deal with ourselves, because if we can't deal with ourselves and know what's going on with us to clear that, we can't align anything. We can't bring in any more of our aspects, because it's such a mess. We're such a mess inside. We have no room for these aspects to come in. We have no room for more of a soul light to come in, because we're taking up all this space with all this other human crap. So we don't even get to the part where we're the anti-hero yet. We're still kind of the baddie, because we're still not even that shade of gray yet. We're still looking out for ourselves. When we get to more into awakening, the beginning of our ascension, I think we start to kind of become the anti-hero, where we're good sometimes. We can touch on our higher aspects, and we can feel that higher consciousness, and we can even act from that higher consciousness from time to time, but we're not embodying it yet. We're not becoming it yet, right? We're not becoming that purity yet. We're still kind of a foot in both worlds. We're still playing in the muck a little bit, but we can do some pretty nice things too. So we kind of start to fall into that anti-hero category, and then we can kind of move on from there. So I'm not going to make this super long, but I just wanted to really get on and hone in on this. This is a really good, fun way to look at things and really separate yourself from it in a sense, and just say, okay, what's the information I'm being told here? How do I feel about it? What am I going to do about it? Do I need to align anything here? Or is it just me taking this a certain way because of a program I'm running? I'm running a program about what they're saying, and that's not what they're saying. And that's not how they're acting. I'm just putting it this way. Or the opposite. I'm trying to sugarcoat this. I'm trying to sugarcoat this and make this okay. And sometimes we'll go the opposite way. It's one way where we take it personal, we get offended, or we take it the other way, we don't take anything at all anyway, but oh, they didn't mean it, or oh yeah, but that's not what they meant, even though that's kind of what they did. That's not really what they meant, because we don't want the relationship we don't want to have to stand up in the relationship, so we'll go the nicer way in a sense. We'll play nice. We won't really look at what's going on. We won't really look at the information. We're going to try to put blinders on. We're going to look at that information through our programming lens. Our programs can work both ways. We can make everything against us, or we can also turn around and we kind of placate everything, because we don't want to have to deal with anything. Human consciousness is it's more complex. It is the unconscious part of our soul, but it has a complexity to it where it can take things one way. If it makes it feel better, it can take it a different way if it makes it feel better going that way with it. So, it can kind of bob and weave all over the place. That's why when we start really dealing with ourselves and dealing with all these relationships and really diving into things, it is so challenging. It takes so long, because the human consciousness, the ego consciousness, it's very tricky. And even when we think, oh, we're not taking it, I'm going to take this, it's totally okay. Maybe it's not totally okay. Maybe we shouldn't be in this reality. I don't want to make that decision when I still have an emotional charge around it. The emotional charge is also information regarding us and how we're taking it. It doesn't mean we stay in it. I see that kind of get misconstrued so much that, oh, it's my issue, not theirs. That how we react is ours, right? And how we take it is ours. It doesn't mean it's okay. It doesn't mean it's a line to stay in. But until we can clear some of the emotion, really look at why we're there, we can't really make that choice. Is it aligned? It's aligned with something because it's there. It's aligned with helping me clear something, or it wouldn't be here. Even if it's miserable, it's still aligned with something. Human consciousness, the realities that we create from our human consciousness, it is aligned with our human consciousness. It is aligned with something. That is a fail-safe to remember. Everything happening to you is aligned with something. It might not be the highest aligned timeline, but it is aligned with something, or you could not experience it. Just like you can't channel something that's not you. It's not possible. It's all us. It's us in higher frequencies. That's what it is, So we can't, dismiss everything and say, oh, that's just my overreaction. We might be overreacting. That we might be really, and to me, overreaction is just, you're so heightened and so sick of it, and it's been bottled in for so long that the one little thing, and all of a sudden it's everything, right? It's not just this one thing. It's the last 15 years that's fueling me here, even if it has nothing to do with the person in front of you. Normally, it doesn't have anything to do with the person in front of you. It's just we bottle it down, and that's why we overreact, because we don't we take everything so personal. Or we go the opposite way and we just ignore it all. And no matter how much something or someone is disrespecting us, we'll keep rolling with it and be like, it's fine. I don't really want to have to work with it, so it's fine. So look at where you're falling on it. Remember, it's all just information, and have fun with it, because it is kind of a fun exercise to do. So keep practicing the art of intuition.